hello. You might be able to hear the rain on the roof. It's not too loud, I might have to edit it out. I don't know. But I'm going to make a pen video. Let's have some fun with pens. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I got these Noodler pens. I'm jumping in here, no intro to my pen things or not, but pens, fountain pens I've been into for years, and I kind of love writing, and when I write stories and poetry and stuff I have to write by hand to start with because it doesn't feel right otherwise. I can't go straight onto the computer. I do use the computer for editing, but anyway, so I use these pens and I've got a collection of fountain pens, and some of them are these Noodlers. I have to look, I don't know if you can see. Where's the camera? Noodlers. These two are Ahab, so this is a Conrad. And when you get they're not expensive. I got mine from Goulet Pens. There is a dealer in the UK, but I can't remember who they are at the moment. That was the first one I got. That's called King Philip Purple, and this one is called something like Carnelian Honey. And the Conrad, which I love because it just looks like an old kind of vintage pen, is called Essex. This one would not work at all. In the end, I had to take a nib out of one of these. I then got a nib off someone to put in here to make this pen work because the nib and feed it came with were just really bad. But Goulet Pens did refund my money. Then I played with it, tried a new nib and feed, and it worked. But the Conrad is the trickiest of all of the Noodler pens that I've tried. Well, I've only tried, there's two other makes, I think. They do two other models. They do the Nib Creeper, which I don't really like the look of. But, I mean, the colours are amazing. This one's beautiful. That's what it looks like compared to a Lamy Safari. So, it's a slim pen. It's lovely, though. So, there's the Safari. And there's the Conrad, and when they've got the lids off, what was I unscrewing the Lamy? There. See, there's not a lot of difference. I love them. Oh God, I didn't clean that one very well. I just noticed I was going to put some more ink in this pen, but I've just noticed a real mess. The thing is, I daren't take the nib out of this kit now. Well, I should really, because as you can see, it's got purple ink in there, but it took me ages to get the nib in and out, and I've actually got these which I've had for years. They're kind of, I don't know what you call them, but they've got squidgy stuff inside. I had them for beading and textile and wire work years ago, and when you get the nib out with these, because I fart around and play around with nibs all the time, you just gently squeeze it in and you can just pull it out really easily. But mostly you can pull them out with your fingers. But I made a discovery. When you get these pens to start with, the nibs are sort of scratchy and they take a bit of playing around with to get them to work and flow nicely. And I've done that with all of these. And I use a few different things to do that with. I mean, I use the pliers if I really desperately need to take the nib out and realign it, because you've got to make sure the nib and the feed are realigned. I can talk about that in another video, but there's loads of videos out there doing that. Basically, there's a line in the middle of the nib. I do not have the camera gear to show you this properly, but if you go to SBRE Brown or Brian Goulet or any of those people, there's videos on how to realign, make sure a pen's lined up properly. Basically, the nib has a slit there. This thing underneath is a feed, which also has a slit, and you have to line the two up. It's got a slit at the back and sometimes and at the other side, and you've got to line them up. So they all come to bits. Oh no, what have I done? See, I've already buggered this one up. I may as well take it out, eh? So gently, there you go. You crunch that nib, and then you pull the feed out. So now, I've probably got ink everywhere because there's ink in that. I've always covered in ink anyway. People kind of wonder why, but so clean that out. I should have done that anyway. So clean the pen out. Now you get so this is the feed. This is a hand-cut, Goulet hand-cut feeds, and this one is pretty wonky. A lot of them are pretty wonky, but they do work. You just have to get them going right. So you get the nib, and if you see on the back, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a slit there, and then you've got to line the two up, so da-di-da, kind of like that. Then this pen doesn't have much of a guide. You fiddle around until it seems to go in, and then push and hope. See, this one, the feed goes in a long way and it shouldn't really, but hope for the best. So now I'm going to fill this. I'm going to put some ink in it, and I've got, I haven't tried this one before, De Atramentis Jane Austen, which I kind of like the look of, so we'll give this one a go. I'll get the... So you take this blind cap thing off. This is the Conrad, the other ones are different, and it's just a squidgy. It's very easy to fill up. With Noodler's pens, you've got to sink the whole pen right down into the ink. Make sure your ink bottle's not too full up, which Noodler's inks usually are, because otherwise, I'm not going to put a lot in there in case I have issues. I might put some out actually. Hold an awful lot of ink, these pens. And I'm doing the 30 inks in 30 days thing too, so I don't want to put too much ink in a pen, because you've got to keep swapping them. So wipe the nib. Put the blind cap back on. And see what we've got. When you dip the nib in ink, the feed automatically gets some ink in it. A feed normally shouldn't be that far back on the nib, but it's the only way I can get this one to work. So, nothing. There is ink in there. So it does take a while for the ink to fill up the feed, but because this is so far back on this nib, usually the feed would get ink when I dip it into the bottle, but now we've got it going. But it's a bit slow to fill up. This is the way of Noodlers, I'm afraid. Not all pens are like this. Sometimes you can just put it on a paper towel and it makes the capillary action flow and bring ink into the feed. But it's not working at the moment. I should have taken that nib out. It was in a sweet spot. Right, it looks like I might have to put this pen back to bed and work on it again. I'll just try dipping it, giving it another dunk. I did learn another trick with these. See, this is just from dipping. They've got flex nibs, these pens, which means you should get a bit of a variation in line, so you can like. Actually, this one's not too bad. Now, but I'm still not sure if that's actually flowing from the barrel or if it's ink that's stuck in the. Excuse my scribble. Yeah, see, now what that just did there, so now it's run out of supply again. And there is still ink in the barrel, you can see. I'll leave it and see what happens. What do I do with the cap? Oh, there it is. I'll put the lid on that pen and we'll just see what happens. It is a really, it's the worst. Well, I love it. I love the look of it, but it's the toughest Noodler's pen I've had, and I would definitely not advise you getting a Conrad until you played with an Ahab. I don't know anything about the Nib Creeper or the Nepom set, whatever, but these are a lot easier. They've got a marker where the nib goes in. I actually think this might be an old model Conrad. I don't know, and they've changed them a little bit. So this one is the Ahab. Now, I read a little trick. They're normally quite dry. I read a little trick on, I don't know where I read it now. But it was about Noodler's pens. because there's quite a lot on. Fountain Pen Network is a good online site, and they've got loads of tips. And I was googling how to get that Conrad working, and I've randomly came across a tip that if you get a piece of Scotch tape and put it on top of the nib, I haven't got any on at the moment because I don't need it, but it was kind of dry and it did this thing called railroading, which basically means when you go like that, eventually all you'll get is, well, I mean, I can't do it with this one because it won't work, but, and that one won't do it now because I've got it going too well. You should not really do this with pens. So see there, so the ink's flowing now, but when it dries up, oh my gosh, they're not going to play ball, are they? Oh no, I've got it going too well. There you go. So railroading is basically when you get the two edges, the nib's got two tines, so you get the very outer one and no ink in the middle, but this one's both playing ball now, so I can't make it railroad. There you go. That little tiny bit at the end there, this is railroading, that's railroad, so it looks like like a railroad, two parallel lines instead of a juicy thick line. If you put a piece of Scotch tape over the top of the nib of these pens, or possibly any other dry pen, but these particularly, it does this something which they call it like overfeed or something, and it stops the railroading. And I did this the other night and I couldn't believe how juicy the pen got. And this is not a perfectly well behaved ink, it's a really highly shimmering diamine razzmatazz ink, so you can see the feed is pretty gunked up with gold stuff. But since I put that tape on it, I put the tape on, then the tape fell off because obviously it gets wet under there when it pulls ink out, and it's been perfect, it's been amazing. It just, you know, look at it. Now this is a flex. Whoops. The nibs are a bit rough. Any noodlers people, I just wanted to show this because I think it's amazing. See how long I've been going and it still hasn't railroaded? And it's getting quite low on ink too. So, that's the other thing I wanted to show you. This little lovely. The Noodler's nibs, as I said, are very scratchy, and there's quite a few things you can do. You can use one trick I do, which is, I did this in England because I was desperate to find something. I had no pen stuff, no Micromeshy, nothing with me, and it was night time, and I was going to go and get a nail file, which is what this is, but shops were shut. So I thought, what can I use? And I got a mug, turn it upside down, and this roughy bit where it stands in the kiln is amazing. I wouldn't recommend you do this with 18 karat gold vintage gold nib, but a cheap nib, if it's got roughness on it, you get it like this and you just draw figures of 8. Work out how you write with it, hold the pen the same way on the nib and it gets rid of all the roughness. And then you can do the same thing with this. You can get these that have got full size. I think this one's only got 3, but basically you get the roughest one and then you work from, so do it on that one. Still got a long way to go with this nib, so I mean, people think, oh my god, what is she doing to those nibs? But I know what I'm doing. And you do that until it plays ball. And I've made some really rough nibs, really gorgeous and smooth. I'll say I wouldn't do it with vintage nib. I've done it with cheap nibs. I bought a load of Chinese nibs to practice on, especially. Then you just... This is the Micromesh you get from Goulet. You get a little sheet like this for about $5. It lasts ages. You can just go over it and over it. So... Now it's lovely. It's never going to be like a sailor, but it's pretty good. So there we go. That's what I do with my pens. I might fill up that. I might fill up this Ahab. Let's try this one. This will probably railroad like crazy. Right, this is Private Reserve Purple Haze, and it's going in the Ahab. See, this is a different filling mechanism to that Conrad. This one is just a straightforward. Sometimes I get a bit stuck. You just needs a bit of grease in there, probably. Yep. This is basically just a pull piston thing, but it seems to be a bit stuck at the moment. These pens do need a bit of babying. I don't know why that's not. Hang on a minute, what can I free it up with? Noodlers have a little breathing tube too. You don't really need it, it just gives you a little bit of extra ink, but I cannot move that. There we go. I freed it off. So it probably needs a bit of silicone grease, but the whole pen will come to bits. I should be alright without it for now. I won't put too much ink in it anyway. Obviously didn't clean it very well before. But so this one, whereas that one's a screw thick, this is just a push and pull. So push it down, give the nib a good dunk. Lets the feed fill up then, and you don't get such a dry start. The other thing, Noodler's pens are notorious for dry starts. But once I got that Conrad going before, I didn't get any the Ahab going. I haven't got dry starts. Any ink coming up yet? Sometimes you have to do this a few times. Here we go. See that little... So I don't want to put too much in it. That'll do. Because it needs a good clean. And I don't know how this nib's going to behave because I haven't used this pen for a while. And I can't remember how far I got with the Doctor in it. I like to play. I like to play. Oh my god, I just ate some of that. If you watched my salt video the other day, I made chocolate. Oh my god, it was so good. I might have to put a picture on Instagram. I was going to put it in this video, but I ate it. Right, this, see? This is probably, again, one that got stuck in the feed. So this is the, I'm writing big because I don't know. See that it's dried up. Not all fountain pens are like this. People see me playing with them. Whoops, see? And they say, what are you doing? How can you possibly want a pen that you have to put so much hard work into? Because they're fun, and they're not all like this. It's just Noodler's pens are like this. But that's part of the fun too. And once you've got them working, I mean, they're always playthings. The guy, Nathan Tardif, who developed Noodler's pens, made them for people to play around with. I mean, these pens, I don't know, they're about, $20 maybe. And they smell funny. They have this one's a lot better now. The smell evolves. It starts off really stinky and like a bit vomit smelling. The yellow one still stinks. But then it goes into a kind of a nicer smell. This one I've had for about 18 months now. And it's smelling a lot nicer. So this is Private Reserve. Purple Haze. In not my best writing. I'm just a scribbler anyway. So there you go. Pen play. And I'm doing 30 inks in 30 days on Instagram. So I've got 2 days, tomorrow's and today's now. I'm going to be using those two. And I've been using these. I do ink swatches on these. I'm not religious about it. I'm just a player, like I said. But I've got to do that. What is that? I don't know if I've done that Purple Haze before, actually. You can get samples and stuff from Goulet, which are really fun to play with. Yeah, there we go. I did do it. I thought I had used it before. So that's the ink swatch for that Purple Haze ink. But I haven't done the Jane Austen one, so I'll have to make one for that. I like that purple. So, thank you very much for watching. And oh, Krabby says hello. Jamie asked me the other day if she wanted to see him walk off the video. I think it was Jamie. So this is for you, Jamie. Is I'm a nutcase. Okay, that's enough babbling. Bye.